Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Friends, today, 11th December 2021, we look at Mahamalunkya Sutta from the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle-length discourses of the Buddha. In this sutta, the Buddha explains the 5 lower fetters. I must tell you something. That is, now today, I will take these fetters according to the paths. You know, the 4 paths, our attainments of paths: stream entry, once returner, non-returner, arahant. So, I will discuss the first 3 fetters today because they refer to the first level of the path, stream entry, right? So, having that in your mind, please listen and ask questions at the end of the talk, right? So, the dictionary meaning of fetter is a chain or pair of iron rings that fasten a prisoner, you know, a prisoner's wrists like this, or ankles, so that it prevents freedom from action, freedom of action. You see, so the prisoner cannot move about, you know, as he or she wants. In the Dhamma, they are, the word fetters, you see, are a mental chain or bond that binds or traps all beings to the cycle of existence and suffering, samsara, right? So that is why, or that is how we are all caught up in this world, because of the fetters. That's not the only one, right? The Pali word is samyojana. I hope you are familiar with that word. Pali word is samyojana for fetters. There are 10 fetters or 10 samyojanas. Now these are the 10. First one is self-illusion or self-identity. Views and a belief in an individual personality. That is called Sakkaya Ditthi. That is called Sakkaya Ditthi. I'll explain what Sakkaya Ditthi means when we get to the body of the conversation, right? Now the second one is skeptical doubt. That is uncertainty. Uncertainty. Now that is called Vichikiccha in Pali. Vichikiccha. Then the third one is attachment to rules and rituals or grasping at precepts and practices. That is called Silabbata Paramasa in Pali. Silabbata Paramasa. Now these are the three things that we will be discussing today. So I will give you all the explanations as we go on. Now the fourth one is, now I'll give you the list of samyojanas or fetters, there are 10. Now I have talked of 3. Now the 4th one is sensual lust or craving. Then the 5th one is ill will or vyapada. 6th one is craving for fine material existence. That is a Brahma world, right? So craving for that kind of existence, for Brahma existence, that is called Rupa Raga. Then the 7th one is craving for immaterial existence. That is where there is no body, but only the mind. And that is called Arupa Raga. The first one, the other Brahma world is called Rupa Raga because there are both mind and body. But in this Arupa Raga, there is only the mind. Then the 8th one is conceit, pride, mana. It's called mana in Pali. Then 9th one is restlessness. Now you know that one of the hindrances is also restlessness, but it has worry also. Restlessness and worry. Uddacha kukkucha. But here, as a Samyojana, you get Uddacha only. That is restlessness. Then the 10th one is ignorance. Can you see? Ignorance is at the bottom of everything. Avidya, ignorance. Because of avidya, ignorance, that we do all the things that we are doing here, right? Both good and bad. Not only the bad ones, right? Okay. So now the first 5 are called lower fetters, right? They are called lower fetters. And the Pali word is Orambagiya. What is the Pali word? Orambagiya. Samyojana. Orambagiya Samyojana. As they tie beings to the sensuous world. Why are they called Orambagiya or lower fetters? Because they are tied to the Kama world, to the sensuous world, right? To the birth, they get rebirth in the Kamaloka or the sense sphere worlds, planes, right? That is like the human world or Deva world. They are all sensuous worlds. Then the next 5, now I told you there are 10 Samyojanas. The first 5 are the lower fetters. The second 5 are the higher fetters. They are called higher fetters, or in Pali, Uddhambagiya Samyojana. Because they tie beings to the Deva or Brahma worlds, especially to the Brahma worlds, right? That is why. Now, the Buddha says that an untaught, ordinary person who has no regard for noble ones and is unskilled and undisciplined in their Dhamma abides, that means lives, with a mind obsessed and enslaved by identity view and does not understand the escape from it, so that it becomes a fetter. That's how it becomes a fetter. Because if we knew how to get out of this fetter, we would have got out of it. But we can't. You see, because we don't know, we are ignorant. So, similarly, doubt. Now that is the first one, right? Similarly, doubt adherence to rules and observances, sensual lust, and ill will too become fetters in people's minds, right? So there are 5 fetters that bind us to this world. Sakkaya. Now I'm coming to the meaning of Sakkaya, right? That is the first one, identity view. Now what is Sakkaya? Sakkaya means the existing body. This body is called Sakkaya. And Ditti means view. So identity view or view about this body as a self. That is what Sakkaya means. This belief in an everlasting self or soul comes with the self-identification with one of the 5 aggregates. Now always this identification is made with one of the 5 aggregates. You remember the 5 aggregates? Can you remember? Form, feeling, then perception, then thought, consciousness. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. Right? The 5 aggregates. Now, always this identity view is made with one of the 5 aggregates in combination, joined with one of the 5 aggregates. That is, now the first one will let us say, we'll take the body, right? That is assuming the body to be the self. Now that is the first one, right? Now we will take one of the aggregates only for the time being, right? That is, now we take, if we take the body as the one that we want to examine. So now we assume the body to be self. Now this body is the self. Or we assume that the self is possessing the body. Can you see? 2 ideas. One is the body is the self. The second is that the self is possessing the body. And the third is the body is within the self. The body is within the self. Or the 4th assumption is that the self is within the body. Now can you see there are 4 ideas? All these are our own ideas, right? We have made these ideas thinking that this self is somewhere here. These assumptions can be made with regard to the other aggregates also. Even about feeling, perception, consciousness, with all these, we could make the same assumptions, thinking, right? The 5 aggregates are in a continuous flux. You know that, right? Arising and ceasing from moment to moment. Every moment, what happens? Rises and falls, rises and falls. You can feel it. You see, now when you look at the breath, you can see how it rises and falls. And in the same way, the whole body, everything about the body is like that, rises and falls. So it's in a continuous flux. They are impermanent. You see, all these aggregates are impermanent. And one cannot own them. We think we own this, this body. But can we say, don't get old, stay the same? Can we say? Or can we say, don't get ill? Can we do that? No. So we don't own this, though we think it is ours, right? So we cannot own it, own these, 5 aggregates. And also we cannot control them. We cannot. Though we know this truth, we know it, right? In our minds, we know it, but we continue to think they are I, me, myself, mine. That is how we think of this body and mind. This attitude leads human beings to dukkha or suffering. That is why we are all the time finding that this is giving us trouble. Because we think it is me, it is I. That is why. This identification or self-identification is responsible for mental defilements like egoism, conceit or pride, attachment, craving, ill will, etc., etc. You know, all the defilements that we have are due to this self-identification with this body and mind. This self-view is the basis for the other fetters. You know, now we were talking of other fetters, Sangyojana. There are 10 of them. So this self-idea is the most strong one, the strongest one. And because of that, all the others also come about, the other fetters, right? Because now we are taking only 3 of them, right? So these other fetters also are combined or joined to this one fetter, that is the first one, self-identification. We are already caught in this false web, so that what we do is we misinterpret reality. So you see, when we see something, we always misinterpret. We don't see the actual thing, right? So we are never secure, always living in fear, but constantly trying to control the world, the environment, everything around us, we try to control. That is why we start accumulating, influenced by the media, society, parents, siblings, etc. Right? All beings who have not even attained stream entry have this self-view. It may be, in different grades or different sizes. It may not be as strong in one as another. So you see, but anyway, everyone who is not even a stream enterer has this self-view. When Buddha asked about the fetters, Malunkyaputta, now I'm coming back to the sutta here. Now Malunkyaputta was one of the monks. So when Buddha asked whether the monks knew about the fetters, the 5 lower fetters, Malunkyaputta, one of the monks, said, yes, I know. So the Buddha said, all right, then tell me what they are. And his view was that people were fettered by defilements from time to time, whereas at other times they are unfettered. Now can you see the difference? He thought that people are fettered only sometimes, at times only, not all the time. So now Buddha, by taking an infant as an example, the Buddha showed that these fetters are always present in us until they are eradicated by the 4 paths. The 4 paths: stream entry, once returner, non-returner, arahant. you know, if we say in Pali, what? Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, Arhat. So with these paths only that we can get rid of these fetters. It is the first path, that stream entry, that, you know, eradicates this self-view, right? So now why are they so strong in us? Because of the underlying tendencies. You know, I have talked about underlying tendencies before also. Underlying tendencies are called asavas. They are things that we have brought from our past births, you know. There are some good things also that we have brought, but the bad ones are the asavas, right? So these are fed, you know, the fetters are fed by the asavas, by the underlying tendencies that we have. So now these asavas are, or underlying tendencies are, in 3 levels. First, the anusaya level. Anusaya level is where they remain in the mind below the surface, so that nobody can see. Now, let us say I am angry with somebody, but I will, oh, I'm so happy to see you. You know, don't we pretend to do that? Now, that is where the underlying tendency is under the surface. You know, we don't show it. Now, the second level is called the pariyuttana level, where they rise up and totally take over the mind. Now, that is the time when you show your anger or whatever the defilement, right? And the third level is where they motivate unwholesome bodily and verbal action. Did you understand now? 3 levels of the underlying tendencies. Now, let us look at the simile that the Buddha gave, right? The simile is like this. Now, one may think, now listen carefully, because it might, you know, give you an idea of what the Buddha is saying. One may think that the infant lying on its back, you know, the very small infant that is maybe 1 week old, very small, right? On its back, does not even know or understand the word teachings or Dhamma. Now, the small infant does not know anything about teachings and the Dhamma and all these things, right? But within the little infant, all the fetters are lying dormant. Can you imagine that? They are all lying dormant inside the little infant. That is why the Buddha says that we have brought these from the past births. When it is born, it cries because it feels the discomfort of the atmosphere or the environment. You know, now it has come out from a very secure place, right? And when it comes out, the atmosphere may be cool or warm or whatever, and it starts crying. Then, when its mother feeds it, feels the comfort, which brings a pleasant feeling. Now there is a pleasant feeling. This desire makes it cry out every time it wants something, right? It knows that crying will bring some comfort, right? So, the underlying tendency, anusaya, comes to the second level. That is how this operates. Thus, the self or identity view is formed, which becomes solidified as it grows into maturity. Now that is how this identity view has come into us from childhood. Beings seek happiness within the 5 aggregates. You see, all beings look for happiness within these 5 aggregates, ignorant and forgetting that they are in the process of continued change. All the time, they are changing. All the time, we don't see the change. Only we see it after some time. We don't see it immediately, but changing all the time. And by creating rules and regulations, producing beliefs and getting attached to them, holding them as views, we create an individual self, separate from others. This is my idea. That is not my idea, right? Now that is how we separate ourselves from others. These values are stamped in one's mind at a young age, and by correction and warning, made to believe in good and bad behavior. I don't want to go into detail about that because, I might say something wrong also if I go into detail, but I think you can understand what I'm saying, right? So they perceive themselves. So because of this, the, children or little ones, they perceive themselves as good, though unwholesome states of mind appear from time to time. Now you can see even children, how they fight and quarrel and, how they treat each other or even their parents when they don't get what they want, so it's like that. But they think they are good, right? That is the idea that's given from the beginning. This impression is taken now, later on as adults, we go to meditate, right? Or even as young people, we go to meditate. Now this impression of good and bad is taken to their meditation too. And they think one practice is good while another is bad. So that's why sometimes they're not satisfied with their meditation. But actually it's not so. We don't have to be dissatisfied with any meditation. Even if we were not able to concentrate, it's okay. Just be happy with what you have, with what you are, right? Be present in the present moment, right? So, this is the working of the fetters. But mindfulness is a choiceless awareness where we accept things as they are, allowing experiences to arise, being in the present moment with faith in what we do. That is the most important thing, to have faith in what you are doing. Whether you are bowing to the Buddha or whether you are sitting down for meditation, whatever you do, I'm just taking examples from the spiritual side, but whatever, whether it's mundane or whether it's spiritual, you must have faith in what you are doing, right? Then we'll become aware that the self we have held on to all this time is only an illusion. And all that happens is due to cause and effect. If we look properly, we will see that. You and I both, Don't think that I'm the only one who can see it or you cannot. We can all see. Look carefully. We'll see dependent origination at work within us. You see how dependent origination works. Looking mindfully at the elements, earth, water, heat, and air. You know the earth element, water element, you know the elements, 4 elements, right? That form this body. We could get a clear picture of no self. For this division of the elements, right, into elements, will help us to be aware of each element separately so that we lose the sense of wholeness in the body. Another method, now that is one method of finding out no self. That is that Sakkaya Ditthi, that there is no Sakkaya Ditthi, right? So to get over that, one way is to look at the elements in the body. Now the second one, what is that? Another method is the division of the body parts as impurities. You know that, how you can divide the body parts, right? When the division is made, we could clearly become aware of the non-self nature of the body and mind. We can see that when you divide and see, there is nothing left. No I. The Buddha says that this body is similar to an oil lamp. You know, those days there were oil lamps. Even today we have, but you know, not so often, right? So the Buddha says that the body is like an oil lamp. Why is that? When one lives thinking of the pleasantness of things, you know, when you think of only the pleasant side of things, that can fetter internal and external sense faculties. You know, internal sense faculties are eye, ear, nose, tongue. Those are the internal. Then the external means the objects. They are objects, right? So when you see these are the things that fetter, craving increases. That's how craving comes about. The oil lamp depends on the oil and the wick. If someone were to add oil and adjust the wick, it will burn steadily. Similarly, when one is fettered, one continues in samsara and suffers, right? That is why Buddha compares this body and mind to the oil lamp, right? The second fetter, now we talked about the first fetter, that is the Sakkaya Ditthi, self or identity view. The second fetter is skeptical doubt. Now, once the first fetter is removed, now if we can get rid of this first fetter, the others will be very easy to deal with. For it's the view of self that prompts the others to arise, right? Doubt, conceit, you know, all the other fetters that are there, all the 10 arise because of this sense of I, me and mine. So, in the Abhidhamma, you know what the Abhidhamma is, right? Abhidhamma is the sort of the more analytical kind of Dhamma, right? Not the suttas. So, in the Abhidhamma, it's described, this skeptical doubt is described as doubt about the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, the spiritual training, past, future, and dependent origination. So all these are doubts in skeptical doubt. When doubt arises about the training for liberation, it may be due to the uncertainty with regard to one's own ability and suitability for the practice. You know, some people, they feel that they cannot do it. They are not able to do it. So that is also a fetter. Many people doubt the factor of rebirth. There are many who don't think that there is a rebirth and say that the Buddha did not teach it. But we'll see whether he taught it or not, right? But when we examine the doctrine, we see that rebirth is an integral part, very important part of the Dhamma. Now take the 4 paths to liberation. Let us take just one example. The 4 paths to liberation, that is Sotapanna, stream entry, right? Then once returner, non-returner, Arahant. We'll take those paths, 4 paths, right? Now, when one has attained the first path, that is stream entry, one may be reborn in the human world or Deva world for a maximum of 7 births. So now is there rebirth or not? Then when one has attained the second stage, that is Sakadagami, once returner, where does one return? To the human world, right? So how can you say there is no rebirth in Buddhism? Doubt is called skeptical doubt, and this paralyzes thinking and leads to negativity, bad karma, or not being able to decide whether it is mundane or spiritual, whatever. You are not you are not able to decide properly. But reasoned, critical doubt, whether in spiritual matters or in everyday life, is not discouraged in Buddhism. If we doubt everything, we cannot benefit from what is helpful. Buddha has encouraged investigation of the Dhamma too. You know, in the 7 enlightenment factor, the second one is investigation. Investigation of the Dhamma, right? In Kalama Sutta, that is, I think you would have heard of it, Kalama Sutta is a very, very, very famous sutta. The Buddha says that even his own words, Buddha's words, should be adopted only after analyzing it well and not out of respect for the Tathagata. Can you see what a very, very great teacher Buddha is? A healthy doubt encourages a questioning attitude and investigation. Then it will help to overcome one's self-satisfaction. Because there are lots of people who think they are, oh, I'm good. I don't do anything wrong. I don't break the 5 precepts. You know, like that. There are so many people who think like that. But if you, you know, really investigate, look deeply, even into the Dhamma, and even into yourself. You see, why am I thinking like this? Why do I have, you know, this kind of attitude towards this? Then you will understand that you too have fetters, right? So, then it will help to overcome one's self-satisfaction, as I said earlier, and long-held ideas We have held ideas for so long, thinking that they are the truth and it is correct. Opinions and views, and start thinking anew, right? People with skeptical doubt cannot change their wrong beliefs, for they do not trust anybody. For example, now let us take a very simple example. You might think I have got it from a children's book, but anyway, one finds a map leading to a treasure, right? Somehow one finds a map. This person studies it carefully and does some research, then travels to the place and actually finds the treasure. In our spiritual activities too, we are absolutely certain only when we see the results. So that is why some people come here also, and the first day itself, they want to be enlightened. So it's a very, very good thing if one can then get enlightened the first time you sit down to meditate. But anyway, so when we receive results, then we can be sure. Everyone on the path has some kind of doubt, which is eradicated only when one reaches the higher levels and sees the truth, right? When you become a stream enterer, then you will understand. Doubt may not come until one begins to practice. Then one should study, reflect on what you have studied or heard, associate with good teachers and friends, and question to separate the skillful from the unskillful. Even in meditation, we can do that, right? One must develop confidence in oneself. This is easy when we develop 5 spiritual faculties. Now, building confidence is easy when you have these 5. What are the 5? Faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. 5 faculties. When you develop these 5 faculties, then it is easy to develop, right? Confidence in oneself. Then we let go of some other 5 faculties. What are they? Lust, hatred, delusion, conceit, and views. There you are. Those 5 are you let go of, and you develop the other 5. Confidence in one's ability to practice is very important. Making a resolution to stay with the breath throughout a meditation sitting may not provide the confidence you need. Now, to build up confidence, you think, I am going to stay with the breath right through the period, half hour or 20 minutes or 1 hour or whatever. That will not help. But there is a way. How? You can resolve to stay with 2 or 3 breaths. That is both in and out. You see? You think I'm going to stay for two breaths, in and out, or 3 breaths, right? And when that is effective and it works out, you increase it to 4, to 5, to 10. Then you can, be much more effective in your meditation. So try to get more confidence in the practice. Learn the true Dhamma, and faith may naturally come. Now let us look at the 3rd fetter. I'm sorry if I'm keeping you too long, but this is a rather difficult thing to understand. That is why I am doing my best to make it clear. I hope I am doing the correct thing. The third fetter that needs to be removed in order to gain stream entry, we are doing all this, what for? To gain stream entry, is the adherence to rites and rituals. That is called Silabbata Paramasa. Can you remember I told you? Silabbata Paramasa. Now let us look at the meaning of that. Sila means moral virtue. You know that, I think. Sila is moral virtue. Then Bata means practice or observance of rites. Paramasa is the attachment to rites and rituals as a means of gaining liberation. Now that is where people go wrong. Lots of people think that if you light a candle, if you bring some flowers and keep it on the altar, or if you burn incense, or you go walk around the stupa 7 times or 24 times or whatever, you will be liberated. No, that will not happen while you are still having the greed, hatred and delusion inside you. However much you may walk around the stupa, you will never be liberated. So, now that is why Silabbata Paramasa, this is called Silabbata Paramasa. Even holding rigidly to precepts. Now there are some people, I know, even monastics, who are, so rigidly holding on to certain precepts and even criticizing other people, for sort of letting go of them, right? So even holding to these precepts rigidly, thinking that they will bring liberation, can become a fetter. For precepts are, now remember this, only a means to an end, not the end in itself, right? Buddha refers to many rites and rituals that existed in the Indian society at that time. I think you might be interested in certain rites and rituals of that time. A popular belief was that by bathing in the river Ganges, it was possible to get rid of all evil. A slave girl, at that time there were slaves, right? So, a slave girl named Punnika, later on she became an arahant. So, remember, because she was a slave girl, we cannot sort of, demean her. She was a follower of the Buddha. And she converts a Brahmin by her wisdom. Now, I think, I hope you will not mind, but I'm going to read from the Therigatha. Now, the Therigatha is the book of verses given by the Theris, right? Now, this is, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just the parts that are relevant, right? Now, so she comes to the river and finds the Brahmin in the river, shivering in the, early morning. What are you afraid of, Brahmin? When you constantly go down to the water with trembling limbs, you experience very great cold. Now, the Brahmin answers, but you already know the answer, Lady Punnika. You ask one who is doing good action and thereby blocking off evil action. So by, by bathing like this early morning, with difficulty, he is getting rid of all the evil action. Whoever now, now he goes on. Whoever, whether young or old, does an evil action, even if he is released from his evil action by ablution in water. You see? So that is the belief. Now, Punnika says, who indeed told you this? Ignorant to the ignorant. Truly, he is released from his evil action by ablution in water. So now, the Brahmin says, now if this is true, this Punnika now goes on. Now, if this is true, all frogs, frogs and turtles will go to heaven, and alligators and crocodiles and the other water dwellers. So all of them will go to heaven because they are all the time in the water. So she goes on, sheep butchers, pork butchers, fishermen, animal trappers, thieves and executioners, and other evil doers, even they will be released from their evil action by ablution in water. So she goes on giving the Dhamma, right, to this Brahmin. If these streams carried away the evil you had previously done, they would carry away your merit too. Thereby, you would be devoid of both. So she advises the Brahmin, do not do the very thing, Brahman, for fear of which you have always gone down to the water, Brahman. May the cold water not strike your skin. Now the Brahmin understands. Noble lady, you have brought me, entered upon the wrong way, back to the noble way. I give you this water ablution robe. So he gives a robe. So she refuses that, and then she tells the Brahmin, go to the Buddha, go to the Venerable Buddha as a refuge to the doctrine and to the order. Undertake the rules of virtuous conduct. That will be to your advantage. Then the Brahmin says, I go to the Venerable Buddha as refuge to the doctrine and to the order. I undertake the rules of virtuous conduct. That will be to my advantage. So he goes on, formerly I was a kinsman of Brahma. Today I am truly a Brahman. I possess the triple knowledge. I am endowed with knowledge, and I am versed in sacred law, and I am washed clean. So you see, now all those things were washing clean, and the Brahman law and all those things are, the ideas that they had, Brahmins. But now he says, I am going to the Buddha. So you can see that is one of the ideas, one of the rituals that Buddha said is of no use, right? Now, then there is another example. Two ascetics who followed Brahmin rites came to the Buddha and asked if their asceticism would result in a heavenly rebirth. One was an ox-duty ascetic. He wore horns on his head with a tail tied to his back. He ate grass together with cows. Now, Buddha, when he asked the Buddha whether he would go to heaven because of his asceticism, Buddha didn't answer. But when he went on 3 times asking, in the end, Buddha told him kindly that when one behaves thus, he would develop an ox mind and behavior, and after death would be born among oxen or in hell. The second one was a naked dog duty ascetic. And he sat on one side, curled up like a dog. You know, when he came to the Buddha also, he sat like a dog. When he ate, he didn't eat at that time, but when he, usually ate, it was only whatever food was thrown on the ground. He would go on his arms and legs and then eat from the ground. Buddha said he would get a rebirth among dogs. Buddha showed them that their belief in a heavenly rebirth was wrong view. It was wrong view. Even today, there are humans who follow rigorous ascetic practices. Buddha realized through personal experience, you remember, he also went in for self-mortification. So, that just as luxurious living will not bring liberation, self-mortification too is not productive. It's the middle path, the noble eightfold path that could bring liberation from suffering. When these three fetters are eradicated, the three fetters that we were talking about, one attains stream entry and, it's called Sotapanna. It is said that a Sotapanna achieves knowledge and vision. The first person to attain in the Buddha Sasana, in Buddha's dispensation, is Venerable Kondanya. After listening to the first discourse of the Buddha, that is, now this is what he realized while listening. Whatever is subject to origination, whatever, comes up, is subject to cessation. It will also end one day. This is known as the arising of the dust-free, stainless vision of the Dhamma. Yeah, now this is the Pali part of it, right? Yankinchi samudaya dhammang, sabbantang nirodha dhammang. Remember it, those who can remember Pali. Associating with noble friends. Now these are the ways in which one could develop this Sotapanna. That is, by associating with noble friends, Kalyana Mitta. When you start practicing the Dhamma, you need Kalyana Mitta. Hearing the good Dhamma and wisely reflecting on what you have heard. Sila, or living according to the Dhamma. Following precepts. Seeing danger in the slightest wrong deeds. Careful attention helps to understand the Dhamma and purify the mind. Then one is able to give up wrong views and follow right view. Gaining clear vision is practicing the Noble Eightfold Path. So you see, we should all start practicing the Noble Eightfold Path. It is not practiced one after the other. It's all together. A noble disciple, a stream enterer, dwells at home with a mind devoid of the stain of stinginess, freely generous, open-handed, delighting in relinquishment, one devoted to charity, delighted in giving and sharing. So all this I got from the Samyutta Nikaya. In Samyutta Nipata, the Buddha says, when one's mind is fortified over a long time by faith, virtue, learning, generosity, and wisdom, the mind goes upwards, goes to distinction, that is assured of a good rebirth. with the attainment of stream entry, the meditator is assured that liberation will occur within 7 births, not more than that. It can be less than that. Each path knowledge is experienced only once. It is a very brief one, it seems, the experience. A Sotapanna will never get rebirth in lower realms, is firmly established and destined to attain full enlightenment. The characteristic qualities of a stream enterer are unshakable faith towards the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, and also perfect morality. So that is about the first 3 letters, which help to, if we can get rid of them, become stream enterers. I only hope everybody will become stream enterers. But today, because I have taken so much of your time, I'm not going to give you meditation. I hope you don't mind. You have sat for a long time, right? So thank you very much. If you have any questions, please ask. I don't hear any question. You can write in the chat box. Yes, Vandra. Any question?
She is muted.
Have you muted?
Unmute.
Yes? I think Bhadra wanted to ask a
No,
question.
no, I really enjoyed. I thought of writing to you and thank you, especially this one.
Yeah, it was
Really,
very good.
I really
Very
liked
clear.
it. Very clear and something that really helps you. Thank you.
I thought you were going to ask a question. Okay, thank you very much. And the next time, I will be discussing the Sakadagami, right? So, because now you can see how much time I took for this one stream entry path. So, I thought that I'll take it according to the paths, you know, first path, second path, third path, fourth path, right? So, hopefully, next time, the second part, that is Sakadagami. How to attain Sakadagami. And by that time, I hope all of you would have entered the first attainment stream entry, right? So, thank you so much for coming.